Hey there, it's Donna Balzer, and I am been so busy today, but I have so much lined up. So thanks for joining me. I'm a horticulturist and a gardener and an author and a speaker and lots of things. In fact, I was just writing something in my journal. If you haven't seen me before, you haven't seen my journal. Just today, I was out for a walk in the park, and guess what I heard? Frogs. So every spring has become kind of a joke, actually. I dropped something there. Every spring I get out and I think, when's the first day we're going to hear that big migration of birds? And then I write it down. When's the first day that I'm going to hear that mating of frogs? And then I write it down. So I was out for a walk with my dog and I wrote it down. So very excited. I just want you to know the gardening journal is not all about gardening. It's about nature. So follow the birds, follow the frogs, follow your garden. Today, I planted outside of my garden onions and lettuce and spinach. So there's a lot to do. Mostly today, though, I was just weeding because weeding is a job that all gardeners need to do all the time, and I was doing that. But if you saw my little leap into it this morning, I was telling people about peas, and this is the pea that I just love. It's called Oregon Giant peas. These are the ones I've been growing microgreens out of, and these are the ones I'm also planting in my garden. So I started planting them early. The thing with peas is that, this little bag is $5. So worst case scenario, you waste a few peas and then you do it again later. So if we get some freak weather, like a snowstorm or who knows, we get something happening, it doesn't matter. I soak them overnight. They're ready to grow. I put them in the ground. If they don't sprout, I soak some more overnight. So my first ones that I put in, and remember, this is in a West Coast garden here, I put them in on March 6th. But I've spoken to some Calgary area gardeners who are just getting ready to plant their peas. So you know what? You can do this. You can plant peas. You soak them overnight, put them in the garden, and watch them grow. In my greenhouse last year, I had peas to pick by April 13th. That was exceptional. So I was pretty excited about that. Okay, I've been at the farmer's market every weekend, and last week I was speaking in Courtney, and that was a lot of fun. And this week, I will be back at the farmer's market. I'll be selling my microgreen peas and also the pea shoots that I've been growing. So I think that's really exciting. In other good news, my good friend Stephen Biggs has come out with a new book. And Stephen's new book is Grow Lemons Where You Think You Can't. And if I can pass on just one tip from Stephen, it's that you don't need to have a tropical environment. Lemons, especially the Meyer lemons, are very hardy, and you can store them in a garage over winter. As long as they've got just almost no light, but as long as they've got just a bit of light, they will grow and they will survive in a garage as long as it's not more than -7. So he's been keeping them in his garage in Toronto, and he recommends if you have one of those wraparound porches, those are really amazing because they'll get cool, but you can control the heat a bit. What you don't want is a lemon in a hot living room. That's not going to work out. They're going to lose all their leaves. The good news, Steve says, is that they can regrow their leaves. You just don't want that to happen too often. So Steve, my partner from No Guff Vegetable Gardening, has a new book, and it's called Grow Lemons Where You Think You Can't. So if you sign up for my webpage, which is donnabalzer.com, you will get your next newsletter in, I think it's 2 weeks, maybe it's a week. I'm working on it. Anyway, when you get your next newsletter, it's going to have a chance to win this book. So we're not winning it today. I'm not giving it away today, but sign up for my newsletter, donnabalzer.com, and then you are eligible to win this book, Grow Lemons Where You Think You Can't. So I'm excited for Steve. He's done a really, really good job on that book. Oh, last week I put bugs in my greenhouse. And usually when people think about beneficial bugs, they think about ladybugs, but I'm not using ladybugs because the problem that I saw in my greenhouse this spring, it's Andrea from Australia. Hi, Andrea. The bugs I saw in my greenhouse last week weren't aphids. The bugs I saw were whiteflies, and whiteflies are really distinctive. I wonder if Andrea has whiteflies in Australia. I'd love to know that. Anyway, whiteflies are just like they sound, white, and they're like flies, but they're like the size of an aphid, very tiny. When you touch the plant that has a whitefly on it, they just fly off. So there's both a parasite and a predator that works for this. And I'm thinking, because I'm not going to say I'm lazy. That wouldn't be fair. I'm going to say I left some plants in my greenhouse over winter. I had bok choy it's just finishing up now. I had spinach, I had carrots, I even left a few snapdragons in. These plants that are left in the greenhouse over winter, even if you only have one insect on them, as long as they can lay eggs, you're going to get a little bit of a buildup. And so, of course, come spring, I've actually got quite a few whiteflies. So I ordered two. I ordered a parasite and I ordered a predator. The parasite is called Encarsia, and you just hang the little tags in your greenhouse, and when the little parasitized, well, they look like eggs, so I keep calling them eggs, but they're pupae. When the parasitized pupae emerge from that little tag that you hang in your greenhouse, they'll then go and fly around and search out whitefly pupa that are in the greenhouse somewhere, so they'll start to take control. But the predator, think about predators as lions in the jungle. When a lion catches something, it eats the whole thing. And so I wanted to do not just the parasites, which can only deal with that one generation, that pupal generation. I wanted something else. So I purchased Delphastus. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I've got the tag here still. I've actually never used Delphastus before, and I got 100. And these are really teeny tiny black beetles. When I used to see them out in my garden, I thought they were just miniature black ladybugs, but they're not. They're tiny black beetles, and I got 100 of them, and I released them, and they will eat every little whitefly portion, whether it's an adult, a dead one, an egg. They'll eat them all. Yes, Andrea said, we do have whiteflies. So that's tremendous. And it's Mona. Hi, Mona. Mona came by and got a grow bag today, and we had to talk about that. And she met my interns, and that's another thing I wanted to mention. I wanted to thank Ben and Lisa. They're going to be here all week, and they're doing all of the fun jobs. I guarantee it. They are doing weeding, and we're going to do some pruning and some transplanting. And actually, they did some transplanting and weeding already today, so that was really fun. Julia's here. Do you have issues with birds pulling up newly planted peas? I'm so glad Julia asked that. So Julia, yes, I do. I used to have problems with that, but now I don't, because I read the straw bale revolution. Oops, here it is, the straw bale revolution, and I can just summarize in one word what I do. Well, not one word, one sentence. What I do now is when I put in my little pea transplants, first of all, I use my microgreens that I've been eating and growing, so they're in big clumps. They're not individual transplants. And so I put in big clumps into the garden, and then I lightly cover them with loose straw. And so the birds can't really see them. And so they're sort of, you can still see the greens, so you can still see they're in the garden. And I put those in on March 6th, and they have not been touched. Now, last week, I just always like to have more than one, we could still get snow, who knows? So I like to have more than one thing happening. So last week, I also direct seeded peas, and I seeded them very thick. I pre-soak them overnight. I really love these Oregon Giant peas. It doesn't matter what kind of peas you're growing. The Oregon Giants are going to give you those really big plants. So I seed them they're almost touching in the row, and I've soaked them overnight. And then when they come up, again, before they come up, as soon as I plant them, I put down loose straw. And the birds don't seem to be able to see through that. I don't know why. But, Miriam's here too. Hi, Miriam. So that is my solution, is that I loosely put straw over the newly planted peas. And you know what I find out? I actually don't have any problems with the birds pulling them now. Of course, I think it also has something to do with the fact that I'm using those microgreen peas, so they're quite tightly knit. So if they did pull up one, it wouldn't come out as simply. So I loosely put straw around the planted peas, planted and seeded peas. So that summarizes it. Oh, looking really good. Thanks for that question, Julia. That is a good one. Now, Julia has a greenhouse. I know that because I went out there, but also because I was just talking to her about it on the weekend. And Julia, it's not too early to plant in your greenhouse. Last year, I put some peas in my greenhouse, and I had peas that I was picking by I think it was April 17th. I keep mixing up. Was it April 13th or April 17th? I wrote it in my book, of course, because I can't remember anything anymore. But do try some peas. If you're starting microgreens, any that you've got growing already, just put them out immediately into your greenhouse. I think that's a good start. Okay, so that's great. Well, thank you, Julia, for that question. I absolutely love when we have these real-time questions. That makes it more exciting. So I've talked about the new book. I've talked about my bugs in the greenhouse. So if you've got a greenhouse, the biggest problem in the spring for most people, because at this time of year when the day is getting longer, most people have spider mites. And there's a really good spider mite predator as well that you can buy online, and that is called Persimilis. So if you've got, and it's sometimes just called the spider mite predator, it's another mite that eats the spider mite. So if you've got a greenhouse and you've been noticing some problems, maybe you have spider mites. I specifically had whiteflies. Other people have aphids, and there's a really cool little insect that looks like a baby mosquito. It's got really long legs, and it's an aphid midge or Aphides. And I put that in 4 years ago, and it's just like a miracle, like magic. They emerge every spring, and so they're flying around looking for aphids. So they're already on the job, even though I haven't put them in this year. I put them in 4 years ago. So that is pretty exciting. And Jim, can we propagate blackberries using the same method you used for raspberries? Yes, Jim, you can. Blackberries are super easy to take cuttings from. There's 2 things you can do with blackberries, and the simplest one is just to bend the cane over and put a rock on the end of it, like bury the tip and put a rock on to hold it down. And that will for sure root, because it's still got all the energy from the main plant. It'll root probably in a couple of weeks. And that really works good. And then you aren't rushing the season. You don't need a greenhouse. You don't need anything special. That is one way to do it. And the second way, and after you've done that way, you can then just cut off so that you've left one leaf on, and then transplant that into a pot and then do it again. It's amazing really how fast, whether they're in full leaf or just in bud, blackberries will root very quickly, actually quicker than strawberries and quicker than raspberries. So what I've done is, in my greenhouse, I have gotten some from a friend who has the thornless blackberries, and I really like those because, well, they're thornless, and we have a lot of wild blackberries, but they have those big thorns on them. So I am now propagating just from a few stems that she brought me last year, a whole bunch of blackberries, because I want to plant them in a hugelkultur. And if you haven't done that yet, that's something to watch for. The students and I are going to do it this week. So yes, definitely to Jim. So thank you for asking that question. Easy to do, but also they root well from the tips. Oh, just put it in the garden and hold the tip down with a rock. Okay, I think I said all that, but I just wanted to make sure that in case you're in a hurry and you're just scanning through this quickly, that you've had that chance. So it's a little bit distracting, I know, when I read the questions and then type the answers, but I think it just gives another way for people to learn, especially since I've started putting these YouTube, Facebook Live events onto YouTube as well. And speaking of YouTube, I really need everybody to go to my YouTube channel and like it, because it's so much fun. My latest how-to video is with the 7-year-old twins, and we're in the greenhouse and we're potting up strawberries. You know how when you go to the just the garden center, you see all those little packages of dry, well, they look dried out strawberries, and they're just in those little packages. And what you can do is just trim them, plant them in pots, and they'll literally start growing within a day. It's just amazing. I absolutely love it. And then you will have strawberries already this season. So the variety I chose, I ordered it from a wholesaler. I chose Hecker. Hecker is a red, medium-sized strawberry that blooms all season. So I'm very excited. And we did 112 strawberry pots. So really happy. So Heidi Schmidt-McDonald, will you do a demo of hugelkultur? I won't. I won't do a demo because I'll do a video. Is that what you mean? Yeah, I'll do a video, because it's layered, and there's a lot of things to be doing. So I have to be watching, and I'll be supervising the students and watching them, and we will be doing it as a demo. And then as soon as it's done, my whole garden, if you've seen my garden just right on Beach Avenue, the whole garden is done that way because my soil is just pure white sand. But it's a good idea. I will we'll do that. We'll make a little video, and I think that's a good idea. Will hugelkultur work well for winter squashes? Yes. Yes, it will. Hugelkultur, what it is, if you're curious, it's and you can Google it too. There's quite a few videos already online, but of course I like to make a video as well. But the hugelkultur is just piles of wood. So say you've been cutting down some trees or doing some winter pruning, not with grapes. I found that my grape stems that I pruned, I put them into my hugelkultur pile last year, and they started growing. I had grapes just everywhere. So don't do it with things that are rooting really quickly like grapes, but any kind of evergreen tree. I used logs that were as big as this. I've used little branches. And so anything you can find right now in my little town, people are putting out their branches and they're ready to be picked up. So we use that. You need straw. You need a little bit of soil to put on top. So that's really all you need. And typically, if you're making it in a clay soil area, you can sort of make a bit of a bowl, but we're not going to do that here because there's no point. I have only sand. And so when I have sand, it's not going to hold any moisture at all. Doesn't matter if I make a bowl. I'm just going to build right on top of what I've got. So actually, it would be perfect for squash, especially winter squash, because they like it to be really warm. And so I think that is a very good idea. So I'll just say, yes, it is. So I always give long answers and then I type short answers. So what are you going to do? That's Donna. That's the gardener. So I was telling you about the video. I made a new video. My next talk, I'll tell you about the next talk. Guess what? I don't have to go anywhere. My next and so far last talk, unless your garden club calls me to come out and speak, my last talk is on April 9th, and that is in Qualicum Beach. So I don't have to go anywhere. I'll be right here, and I will be at your service. Speaking about tomatoes and just getting your garden growing better. Ironically, this year, my tomatoes are terrible. I think it's because I'm talking about them. It's that new soil, that sun-grow soil that I bought. Shouldn't have said that out loud. Anyway, I always use ProMix, and I never have a single problem with anything. This year I've had some problem. Ooh. I have one more thing to bring up. I don't know if we have lots of time. It's only 3:19. Look at this. Whoops, tilting. Tilt. Look at this. Do you know what these are? I'm going to hold one up because they're just hilarious. These are my roots that I picked up from Connie's dahlias. And Connie is hilarious. She writes right on the root, like this one is 521. I don't know if you could read that. She writes it right on the root, so there's no mistaking it. This little piece of rubbery looking, a bit like a tomato or a bit like a potato, it's a tuber. So it's 520, oops, can't read it, 521. So then she sends along these little colored, this is just like being back in kindergarten. So I picked up these, I ordered these last fall from Connie's Dahlias. And 521 is called Gets Attention. See, it's going to be a white one. And it's going to be tall. She said, well, not too tall. She said it's going to be 3.5 foot tall plant. It's going to be 5 foot tall when it's in bloom. It needs a lot of sun because it's going to be so tall. I'm going to have to stake it. But that's not why I'm telling you this, because you might be buying your dahlias at Costco, or I don't know where you're buying your dahlias, maybe just at the garden center. When you get them like this, yeah, it doesn't. I would say this shows no potential. But Connie actually made a point to tell me that when you put them in the pots, put them at an angle. Don't put them flat. Don't put them straight up and down. Put them at a long angle so that they fit the pot better. And I'll probably use a 1-gallon pot for these. Fill them with soil, potting mix. And again, I like the Pro Mix. But that soil is not to be super wet. That soil is to be just moist. And then just have the tip just below the soil surface. You can mist it maybe once a week. Put a little dome on it, a greenhouse dome, just a plastic cover, and just keep it somewhere warm. So if you don't have a greenhouse, keep it in your house, because then it's nice and warm. And it can take a week up to 3 weeks for that little piece of root to sprout. And then once it sprouts, water it, get it in the greenhouse, or put it under lights and grow it. So this is something that I did not know, and I've been gardening for a long time. I thought when you took your dahlias out of storage, now go figure, I haven't grown a lot of dahlias. I always buy them pre-grown. But I thought when you took them out of storage, you potted them up, put them over heat, which I normally do for everything, and then watered them right away. But she does not water hers. That soil is just moist. And she showed me 1,400 dahlias in her living room. That is a lot of dahlias. So Connie's Dahlias is the lady that does this and does hundreds. She's going to have a sale later. So I did a little video with her on my camera. So I'll be putting that on this Facebook, not today, because I still haven't figured that out, how to do a Facebook Live and post things. But anyway, Connie's Dahlias has shipped me, and some things like this one, look at the size of this one. Oops, it's upside down. $3.92 PP. $3.92 looks, I mean, look at it. It looks like just a big lump, a like big broken lump, but it's got this little potential, this growing point. So that's going to take a really big pot. I'm going to have to stick that in. I think I'll use my fabric pots, maybe a big 1-gallon one. And I'll be doing that later today or maybe tomorrow. I do have the interns all week, but I'm trying to keep them really busy. And I only have five dahlias. So I'm just promoting Connie because I just love her little business. See how she sends these little cards so that you've just got the information you need just for the ones that you've ordered. Now, when I looked at the ones I ordered, look at this one, Pinelands Pam. That is so pretty. When you look at these, you say, why did Donna order one red, one white, one peach? Well, I don't know. I was just looking at everything online and she has, I think, 800 kinds. So it's pretty difficult to make a choice. I think she's going to have many, many, many for sale later, but I think she's pretty much sold out on her dormant roots. But just check out Connie's Dahlias on Facebook. She's got it going there. Okay. I think I'm out of things to say. Does anyone have any more questions? Because if you do, I'd love to answer those now. We talked about the new book. This Saturday, I will be back at the Qualicum Beach Farmers Market. That's from 8:30 until noon. And again, I'll be bringing my books. I'll be bringing Steve's new book because I sold some already last week. I'll be bringing my 2 books, and I'll be bringing peas and pea sprouts. And I think I have some spinach. I'm not going to sell my growing spinach because we're eating it all. We eat it as fast as we grow it. But I have started some new little starts, and I'll bring those along to sell. Not selling tomatoes yet either. It's just a bit early for people that don't have a greenhouse. But I am selling some peas, and I am selling the pea sprouts. So if you want to come by and taste that, that would be really fun. And I think that was it. That's all I had to say this week, unless we have more questions. I know there's a bit of a time delay. Oh, there's Bonnie. Hi, Bonnie. Have you already started working in the greenhouse? Bonnie works at a local greenhouse, so I'd like to hear if she's already hard at work. I think that would be fun. Right, so this week I heard dahlia, I heard frogs, I'm planting dahlias, and I put bugs in my greenhouse. I also planted strawberries, and we've put that video online now. So if you want to see what 2 7-year-olds and an over 7-year-old grandma have done with strawberries, you'll see how quick and easy it is. You don't need a degree in this. You just cut it, put it in the pot, and water it, and they are growing gangbusters. So I think that's all I had to say today. I think I'm done. Any more questions? Been a lot of fun, and it's been action-packed because we did have a lot to talk about. I'll remind you that I'm speaking next on April 9th, and if you want me as a speaker, make sure to go online and look at my little list of events. And if you want a book, let me know that, and I will send you a book. This is the Gardener's Gratitude Journal. It's my newest book, but we've still got lots and lots and lots of well, not so many lots, actually. We're probably going to sell out pretty soon. We have quite a few no-guff vegetable gardening, and that's a really great book as well. So you can order these things online or see me at the market. I've actually run out of biochar, so I've ordered a whole tote because biochar is starting to catch on and starting to become really popular. And I also have some really cool grow bags. So if you haven't looked at my shop lately, go and have a look there. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I think I'm going to sign off, and I think that was a lot of fun today. Lots of things to say, lots of things to do. It's a busy, busy time in the garden. In case you're wondering, I'm also starting seeds, and I'm starting lots of seeds. It's that time of year where I'm both starting and transplanting. So it's just about to hit. The big season's right around the bend, and welcome to spring. I'm Donna Balzer, and thanks for joining me.